Okay, let's see if I can remember how to do this. Hello, and welcome back to this video series of how many hairstyles can George have in 10 years? Yes, that's right. I'm growing my hair out, and it's a mess. But, you know, that's how it goes. As Chanel said, a woman who's changing her hair is changing her life. And that is where we are. We've hit the end of curacy, and life is changing. Oh. I haven't done a video in ages, but hopefully you've been keeping up with the blog posts that I've written every year. I'm writing them every year now because life is coming in big chunks, bigger chunks, and there is a lot of detail, and actually it's not as useful to hear the detail as my reflections about the macro level of things. It's August 2023 and I have been here 3 years. I was reflecting about half an hour ago actually about the fact that my current feelings about certain things that I will get onto are very much affected by the trauma of 2020, right? The terrible ending and beginnings that I had in my curacy are really affecting how I'm dealing with my beginnings and endings here. Basically, I've been quite worried about me overreacting, but then I've been able to recognise, oh yeah, that happened. I'm still carrying some of that, and what should have been quite a nice healing, like redo of ending and starting isn't going very well, and that's going to trigger the trauma of 2020. So yeah, that's what we do at the end of things. We think about the beginning as well as the time in between. My mind keeps on going back to 2020 and arriving in curacy. Things like we've got a new priest that started and suddenly I'm saying things and I'm acting like the curate who was here when I arrived, and that's a really strange thing to reflect on, the role reversal of that, going from the newbie to slightly more experienced. I've definitely found my confidence. That's a major thing. Certainly since I wrote that blog post last September, what I hinted at in there about things sort of gaining speed has definitely happened in the last year. I definitely feel like I know what I'm doing to a certain extent. I certainly know a lot more of what it means to be a priest for me in this place and in general. I've been able to go and cover Eucharists at other places, and even though the setting is very different and some of the words or the liturgy is slightly different, I know what I'm doing. I have a confidence of walking in there and only needing a brief little overview to get through with confidence and to lead, to be a leader, which is incredible, really. Now, have I been able to get the most out of my curacy that I might have? No. You know, in a year I can't make up the loss of the first 2 years, but I've been very blessed with a very good TI, an amazing congregation and a great community, so I'm not leaving this curacy unqualified. I have faith in their assessment that I am sign-offable. So I'm on a countdown until I leave, which is just getting faster and faster is how it feels. At the beginning of August, I came back from my holidays and almost the entire team went on holiday, and slowly during the last few weeks people have been coming back. On Sunday the vicar returns, on Tuesday the administrator returns, and then everyone's back ready for me to leave on the Sunday after that. So next Sunday I will have a farewell service and then I'll head off into the sunset. It's not a very long sunset because the dawn will rise on my next chapter very quickly on the Wednesday when I start my training as a chaplain. If you follow me on, oh god, it's called X now, right? The app formerly known as Twitter, you'll know that I got offered a commission and I'm taking it up. Since then, I have been assigned to the 47th Regiment Royal Artillery, which is based over in Stonehenge, basically. I keep on telling people I'm moving to Stonehenge, it seems sort of simpler. Whilst technically I'm going to move there, I'm actually going to spend the next 3 months in training. So I do a month with the chaplains, then I do 8 weeks at Sandhurst, and then I do another week with the chaplains, and then I'm actually with the 47s. Everyone keeps on asking if I'm excited, and sure, I'm excited about starting. And I suppose it's an exciting prospect to go to Sandhurst. That's a very privileged thing to do, and obviously it's a very adventurous and challenging thing to do. But mostly I'm excited about, like, after Christmas, when I actually get to settle doing the job. Obviously I need that time in between so that I am ready to do that, and I'm not going to resent that time at all, and I'm going to make the absolute most of it. But when it comes to excitement levels, I'm excited about being a padre and this is the sort of bit about becoming that. It's also, as followers of this blog will recognise, complicated by the personal stuff, the really boring, prosaic, everyday life stuff, right? So I've been going through a bit of a hassle about getting my house and then dealing with moving, and then I am going from my first home here to a bigger house with more stuff that I need to get and all of that. I'm moving further away from my partner, I'm moving away from friends and family, and trying to lay down foundations now to sustain those relationships across that distance. That's a lot to be doing, as well as the really important parish work that is my full-time job still while I'm here. I'm doing services, I'm doing DBS checks, I'm doing a lot of handover with our new associate. And as I said last year, I'm determined to be here until the end and not have a foot outside the door, but the door has to be open. I have to be thinking about doing a load of practical stuff to enable me to leave. Again, I can reiterate that I've got a really good TI and an amazing congregation, so it's not exactly difficult, it's just a very full plate is what it feels like. As per, in amongst all of that, trying to reconnect with my sense of vocation and my sense of calling has been tricky and taken conscious effort. So I said in my blog post how much I needed a retreat, and oh my god, I was absolutely correct, and I actually managed one. I managed a few days in July, and it was astonishingly useful. It did so much for me and was so helpful, and obviously the theme of it was my vocation and my calling, and having started the application process to become a chaplain last January, which is a very long time ago, and getting bogged down in all the fitness and the forms and the interviews and the process and all the finicky things, going on retreat and being reminded of what it means to be called by Jesus to do his work was so necessary. I was also hugely grateful that I didn't notice until the day of, when I went to morning prayer, that it was St. James's Day, St. James Great, and there was so much of that that really spoke into my thoughts and my prayers. Notwithstanding the fact that St. James is the patron saint of my sending church, for whom I will always have a lot of love, and so that all that connection was just incredible and so providential. So now, having done 3 years of curacy, which went really slowly and really fast, I'm signed up for commission, minimum 3 years, as a regular army chaplain. And I mean, we'll see what happens given all the things that are happening in the world at the moment. So it might be a slightly more adventurous chaplaincy than it might have been in the last few years. But what's reassuring is that whenever I think about it in those terms, whenever I think about actually doing the job and being the priest to those people in what they're doing, that is still truly exciting. And as opposed to a year and a half ago when I was starting to apply, I do have more confidence now, so much more confidence, and the understanding of me doing that. It's daunting, but that's because it should be. It's a big task, it's a big role, and I am very much in need of the training that I'm going to go through and the support of the chaplains that are going to be around me as I learn that new role. I have learned what it is to be a priest, so I know that bit, I know that part of the job, and I can do that bit. It's then the application in that context, and learning everything I can from my peers is going to be so important. But what the last year has given me is that fundamental part of what it means to be a priest, which is relationships. It boils down to always people to people. That is who we are, that is who we are for, and that's where we offer ourselves as the body of Christ, ultimately. On a lighter note, I'm trying to make the most of being in London, so we've been going to see some musicals. I went to the Opera House, which is a very weird aspect to the last month or so, and life keeps going. There is talk and plans of, you know, things and people and stuff in the next few years, and it's all just getting bigger. As I said before, I think on this vlog, there's an element to, I'm now in my 30s, and so life just gets bigger because you end up with more responsibilities and more stuff. That's just how it goes. So this discernment blog has also just been watching me grow up. But I'm no longer a young adult, I'm just an adult until I hit middle age, whenever that might be. What's nice is, I think, that feeling in a time of transition, it feels right? It is scary because it's big, but I decided at some point not to do a 4th year of curacy, which was on the table, and I've never regretted that decision. I've never doubted myself in that decision. So that's a reassuring thing in it. As much as the future is scary, it's the future I have chosen that I still want. So next time you see me, I might be in camo, I might be in uniform. Interesting question about the future of this blog actually, when it comes to what I'm allowed to do and say on the internet as an army officer, but we'll get to that. Meanwhile, I've somehow got to write a sermon for my farewell service, which both acknowledges that part of the day, but also preaches the gospel. So I hope that goes well. Interestingly, I'm just casting around the room with my eyes, and a friend of mine gave me something that says, "God's got this," and yeah, that's basically where I'm at this point. Things aren't perfect, some things aren't going to plan, some things aren't ideal, but God's got this, and I think I'm doing alright underneath that. So here's to the next chapter of my priesthood, of my calling, and of my faith. Please do pray for our armed forces as I go to be one of them. And I will check in with you on the other side of being commissioned an officer.